1 month probably or more. So it's the 8th class. Let's see what we did last time. This, I think, is this stupa you recognize. This is the stupa at Sarnath, which was built in about 250 BC by Ashoka to mark the place where the first discourse was given. It's called Dhammek Stupa. We'll begin our classes with this slide. Pardon. What is this? Okay. Okay. Is it okay now? Okay. So I took this picture from Nanachat just to act as a reminder to us how do we really listen to the teachings. So it says Ajahn Chah's famous statement, you should use your heart to listen to the teachings and not your ears. So let's try to do that and try to capture the teachings very deeply, not just in an intellectual manner alone. So as usual, we'll first do the recap of what we did in the last class, I think long back. We were discussing the various features of the Eightfold Noble Path, and we had said usually we present it as 8 different aspects of ethical behavior, mental training and wisdom. But actually they are all not individual, separated like the petals of a flower, but they are intertwined like this picture which I had shown you last time. A rope which has 8 strands and which are all joined together. If any of the strands is weak, the rope will be weak by the same amount. So all the 8 strands have to be equally strong so that the rope can carry us and be useful. Similarly, the Eightfold Path will be useful to that extent that all the 8 strands are strong. And the very first strand which we had discussed last time was samma or wise view, which we had seen is usually defined in a variety of ways, but the usual classical way is understanding of the 4 noble truths to remove the ignorance. And as we had discussed last time, to understand 4 noble truths means to understand it first from the pariyatti perspective, from the theoretical perspective, then from the practice perspective, that is the patipatti, and then from the pativedan perspective, that is culmination of practice should lead to this penetration into the Dhamma. And we had seen for the first noble truth essentially is we should understand it. Understand means, remember, understand it through the heart, through actual experience. And once we have understood it, really the other things automatically will follow. We'll understand what is the cause of this suffering, what is the origin, and we can then put it aside, let go of that, and realize the cessation of the suffering. And in that process, we automatically understand what is the path by which the cessation has taken place. Normally we think of, I should know the path and then I will follow the path. The path is intertwined in the understanding itself. And as we had discussed, when we say to understand suffering, it actually means to stand under suffering, to be able to feel the suffering as it actually manifests through the body and mind, and let that suffering teach us. And how will it teach us? When we accept it unconditionally. When we accept it, then the mind settles down and our natural intelligence comes to the fore, and we discover what exactly was the tanha, what is the wanting, what was the origin of the suffering. And once we understand the origin of the suffering, we can put it aside. We can see that this is the origin and I need not grasp it, I need not hold on to it. And that is what is meant by abandoning it. And therefore, the cessation of the suffering would be realized. So first 3 things are actually to be realized every time we experience suffering, and as we do it more and more and more, we become adept at that, and as we become more and more adept, the penetration becomes easier and deeper, and the whole path becomes clear to us. Last time I had mentioned the proximate cause, that is the one which helps greatly in this process of developing the understanding of Four Noble Truths, is yoniso manasikara, which means wise attention, appropriate attention. In addition, I have added some more things which we were discussed in the passing last time, which are mentioned in these commentaries. Another helpful means is listening to the teachings, studying various suttas, and then associating with the Kalyan Mitta, associating with somebody with whom you can discuss these issues. And as you would recall, this is one of the basic advice given by the Buddha, that for following the spiritual path, the presence of a spiritual friend is of great help. Not just as an object of meditation, but as a friend with whom you can discuss and understand the path properly. The wise view we had seen, I had pointed out from a sutta, is the forerunner of the eight factors. Forerunner means it is the foremost, because if we have right view, everything else will follow. All the eightfold paths, eightfolds will follow. Because if you have right view, our resolve will be right, and with right resolve, our speech will become right, our actions will become right, and livelihood become right, and so on. And all the eightfold paths, eightfolds of the path, 8 parts of the path will be come into fruition, provided the view is right. If the view is not right, it's not possible really to progress in the proper direction, because it's like our eyesight not being right and we are trying to walk on the path. So when we will get diverted and follow a long track, we won't know. So a very simple definition of wise view or the samma is to be able to distinguish between what is right and what is wrong. So this is what I had mentioned briefly last time also. To discern what is wrong view, what is right view, what is wrong speech, what is right. Because in modern times, many times, we even have doubts what exactly is right speech. Is truthful speech necessarily right under all circumstances? We can have even that kind of a doubt. Similarly, what is the right action? Is exaggeration right action? Is exaggeration a part of wrong speech or right speech? Because without that, how will you compete? And is harshly treating somebody, is that really wrong action, or is it meant for benefiting that person? So these kind of dilemmas arise. The key thing is to discover in each of them is what is the intention behind each of the action, intention behind speech, intention behind livelihood, and then we can discern whether we are following the right view or not. And then pointed out that in the canon we find 2 definitions. One is the classical definition which we had pointed out, the Four Noble Truths, which leads to liberation. But there is also something called mundane right view, which is understanding the law of karma. And why is it called mundane? Because it encourages wholesome actions. If we understand that doing this kind of action will lead to our own suffering, then out of fear for suffering we try to avoid it and say, okay, I think we should be careful and not do wrong actions so that we can do it. So in fact the Buddha calls it right view with affluence, siding with merit. That the view is right in the sense that it increases our paramis, it helps us to improve our merits, but there is a sense of self in that, because I want to gain merits, I want to do good action, and therefore it calls it a right view with affluence, right view with asavas. It's not the right view without us, it's not the noble right view. So noble right view is the understanding, the insight knowledge of Four Noble Truths. There are also equivalent alternate definitions which we have discussed earlier. I have put it in the green patch here. I have added it. If you recall, in Samma Sutta we had talked of a number of right views, and the distinction between what is wholesome and what is unwholesome, then what is nutriment, what is not nutriment, what are Four Noble Truths, and the whole of the Paticca Samutpada is traced there. Understanding aging and death and birth and ignorance, up to ignorance, which essentially means understanding the Paticca Samutpada. So wise view is also includes an understanding of the dependent origination, because without that understanding, the insight into non-self is never complete. So if you have to really gain insight into anatta, our understanding of dependent origination should be comprehensive. And you recall we had done a number of exercises of that purpose. How do we foresee dependent origination in day-to-day life? Then this is the homework which I had given to introspect what kind of happiness we are looking for in our life. It's a tall order. I got some mails, but not exactly responding to this question. So maybe if you could spend some time quietly and reflect on it and discuss this issue, because this is what is really going to determine our Dhamma Samvega, how much we are really going to apply ourselves in the path of practice. Is it going to be a once a week affair, or is it going to be a 24/7 affair? So we need to really reflect deeply. So I would suggest that we keep quiet for a few minutes, and as soon as somebody is willing to speak, please raise your hands, ask for the mic, and share as frankly as you can. The usual term, I mean happiness as you understand. We don't want to, we had of course discussed it long back, if you remember. We had discussed the various kinds of happiness, happiness associated with the body, then which are having wealth, enjoying wealth, the having happiness of debtlessness, you remember, and happiness of blamelessness. These we are called as the worldly happinesses. Then we had called it unworldly happiness resulting from jhanas, and then we had called it transcendental happiness, or still greater unworldly. I mean, there's no word, so we use still greater unworldly, which is actually the transcendence, which actually is transcendence of happiness, the worldly happiness and transcendence of the unworldly happiness, which arises from freedom from the three poisons: greed, hatred, and delusion. Freedom from raga, dvesha, and moha. One thing which we have to remember is the happiness obtained from meditation, even deep meditation, jhanas, is an unworldly happiness. It's of a higher dimension than that, but that's not the end of path. That in fact can be a trap, so we should be careful on that. So I would request that we spend few minutes and let us just introspect and see what is the kind of happiness which you are looking for. Now if you, rather than using that question in that way, you could rephrase the question in any other way you like. What is that drives me? What is it that is the foremost importance to me in my life? And that would then manifest in that one of these three categories. So let's spend few minutes. We can meditate quietly for 2-3 minutes at least, and see whether you can come up with some introspection and You see, in our everybody's life will have dimensions of all of these kinds of happinesses. So we can see which is the most prominent, which is less prominent than others. If anybody would like to share.
The happiness which I look for should not be influenced by external or worldly object.
Should nahi hona chahiye.
Okay.
There should be no word should.
Which is not influenced by worldly or external objects. External object, it could be from the which could have which has to have contact with the sensory doors.
We are not discussing theory now. We are saying what am I looking for in my life? Which kind of happiness am I looking for? And it's not just for inquisitiveness, it is basically for introspection to find out what exactly is the prime concern of my life today. It may have changed over the years, it may change in future. So these exercises are meaning if we are really using first person, not third person, not it should be, it must be, nothing.
Okay.
This is
Okay.
my present concern is, what merely motivates me in my life is this, being debtless or being free from blame or having a good family life or enjoying the jhanas or being free from craving or free from hatred or free from delusion.
That is the healthy life in the family, with friends, with the relatives, in the society. I mean to say,
That's better. You can articulate it whichever way you like.
Because in fact, if in the family one is, if I am not happy, I will not be happy.
You don't have to justify it.
Okay.
There is no reason to justify anything. I may be cruel. I say, no, I don't care. That's okay.
Between what I want and the practicality of it. I would like to leave away and go, but it's not practical. So there is this dichotomy. Other than that, I want a depth-free life, and that's another thing. But I feel to leave anything behind, incomplete behind, is where I wish to go. And that I want to devote more time to meditation, and that will not be possible. So there is this dichotomy in which I feel very trapped, wanting to do something else and being pulled to do something else. Practically it is something else, and
so you should find out, why do I want to do something else? You should investigate further. That is what is meant by investigation. We should deeply investigate, why do I want to do something else and not what I am doing now? That is, if you are open to discussing, I think this could be a very good exercise in our investigation, because we are not used to that. What does it mean to investigate? To penetrate deeper.
There are two reasons why I want to do
something else.
To meditate more, and because one, I have not experienced that, and I'm very curious to see what a kind of experience it is, and also.
What do you mean by meditate?
Devote more hours and reach certain levels.
What levels? What does it mean to meditate? Because when you say devote that hours, reach certain levels, these are all have connotations of certain level of samadhi.
No, but when I hear others talk about certain peace, and that is what I would like to.
Yes.
I do not know how long, or I have no clue about that. I do not even know what are they referring to, because I don't think it is something that can be put in words. But that is something I I am striving for, but the kind of effort that is required for that is not what I am being able to put in, because I keep getting pulled back into the practicality of life.
The underlying assumption is that the practicality of life is an obstruction in my meditation.
It is. Also because I haven't attained that finesse to do it in daily life, that working and walking meditation.
So you don't have the choice to say that I don't have that time, I'm finished. You have to do it. If there is a situation in family or elsewhere which demands that you do something which you feel are very important, should be done, then we should find a way that while doing that, after all that is needed primarily, I would say, the very first step and the most significant step is to be mindful. That we can be in any condition.
But I'm not apt at doing it if I'm not. It's a very microscopic.
That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. It can't be. How can you not be mindful while?
It's very fleeting. It comes and it goes.
What do you mean by mindfulness? Let us understand.
Mindful of my mind, of alertness, of breath, anything if I want to say.
Yes. Suppose you are doing, I don't know what work is you are employed in or you are engaged in most of the time. I don't know that. Say
filling forms. Filling forms.
Yeah, that is a very important exercise in mindfulness. If you are filling forms, you have to be very mindful, careful what you are writing and what is it doing to your mind. When you find and suppose you are filling form for getting a job, then while you fill, what happens in the mind? You get upset. Be aware, your mind is upset. I don't like it. It's okay. This is the 10th form I am filling. I didn't get a job. I don't like it. So be aware, I am not liking it. That's the practice.
But there's no continuity in mindfulness then. I am only aware when I write something wrong or I overwrite or when
when you are reading, for example, a book or writing something, you have to be attentive there, isn't it? How can you write without being attentive?
No, I still make mistakes. So that
okay. So that's the time when you discover, oh, my attention went away somewhere else and I made a mistake. So that's the practice. That's as good as observing breath mind wandering away and bringing it back. You're writing a form and suddenly mind wandered away, you wrote wrong things, then you say, oh, wrong, and you bring it back. Relax, observe breath or do something, relax the mind and then do that. So you can integrate, the beauty of this Thai tradition which you are trying to follow. That's what attracts us is really that any and every activity, any and every situation can be converted into a situation of mindfulness, practice of mindfulness. And practice of mindfulness is the key to everything else, as you've already discussed it so many times. So we don't need to wait till I get time and I'll sit on a cushion and then I'll be mindful. Of course, for gaining samadhi, you need to have some element of separation. Even there, when you're writing these things, you write it with full attention, your samadhi will be strengthened. If you're writing something on a piece of paper, then samadhi is strengthened. When I write a book, I have to be totally focused. Totally focused. If I write a paragraph or if I prepare this presentation, I have to be totally focused. So, making the presentation is as good as doing meditation. It's in fact more difficult. Because when I start, the state of the mind is such a state and now peace and enjoy. So it's the mind's tendency to get into a kind of, enjoy that state of calm and you feel, oh, this is the objective of practice. No, this is not the objective of practice. If you remember the last Sunday when we were reading Ajahn Chah's biography, there was a statement that you may get trapped in the kind of situation where you feel good about, oh, very good meditation is happening. So the requirement of silence and requirement of separate timing without disturbance is primarily for concentration of deep level, which means for jhanas and for getting what we had called as the unworldly happiness, which results from jhanas. For that you need some element of seclusion, some element of time, because it's very difficult otherwise. But once you become more and more mindful, if you see what are the aspects of samadhi, if you remember, when we say shil, samadhi, pragya, what are the aspects of samadhi? What are the limbs of samadhi?
Focus.
What are the eightfold paths?
Attention, focus, attention.
What is the eightfold path के 8 नाम बोलिए ना? Speak out the 8 parts of the eightfold path.
Livelihood.
Samadhi.
Livelihood. Concentration.
So, for mental training, what are the 3 aspects?
Concentration, mindfulness, striving.
3 things are there. Wise striving, what does it mean? Means making sure that our mind doesn't get into negativity, we remove negativity, we improve positivity, and we protect positivity. We'll discuss it in detail, but I'm just briefly mentioning. Wise mindfulness. These 2 are helpful in wise concentration. So if you don't have wise mindfulness, you cannot never get wise concentration. So if you cultivate mindfulness and do it in a manner that whenever awareness diverts of itself, craving or aversion arises, you make a note of it. So you prevent craving from intensifying, you reduce the craving, you reduce aversion. That is a part of wise striving and wise mindfulness. So you are fulfilling 2 limbs of the concentration. And if you fulfill these 2 limbs, whenever you get time, you will be able to concentrate very easily. Because there will be joy, there will be happiness of having done something. See, when you do a work, when you do a domestic work or prepare a presentation or do anything, if I do it with joy, the time which I use in that process of developing mindfulness and developing wise striving will be so much helpful that if I sit for 10 minutes also, my mind will be concentrated very quickly. So the kind of things which I am forced to do because of circumstances, those if done mindfully with proper attention and joyfully, very important, very, very important. If they are done joyfully, that will help you to gain concentration, that will help you to experience the unworldly happiness, which you are saying is one of the important things. So this is not an obstruction really. Okay?
No, I didn't know you could equate doing your work very well to meditation. For me, the way I've been trained, it was...
You see, as long as the work is wholesome, of course.
Wholesome work.
I presume that's true.
Yeah, it is.
So the working, you are applying the mind here or applying the mind here. What is the object of meditation? It can change. Object of meditation need not be breath or body sensations or practice of metta. It can be a kasina. It can be any object. They make a disc and Shuddhimagga suggests you take a disc and focus on that and do it. You could as well focus on the reading or teaching of the Buddhas. That could be object of concentration. You can read scripture and read it with full attention. When mind wanders away, bring it back. Mind wanders away, bring it back. It is practice of mindfulness, practice of concentration. It happens. Mind will get concentrated. So it's a way of understanding properly and putting it into practice in that manner.
Actually, because I wasn't equating it on days when I was not able to actually sit, there was a sense of guilt for not being able to sit.
We need to be very right, very true. This is the state, has been the state of most of us, including me, for a long time. That आज मैं बैठ नहीं पाया, सुबह का साधना छूट गई, शाम को नहीं हो पाया. But that's all futile. It's
And it
actually-
also takes your focus away from what you're doing.
That's not a healthy thing at all. It's not a healthy thing at all. That's not what the teaching of the Buddha is. You see, I'm making a strong statement. If you see Satipatthana Sutta, what does he say? While you're stretching yourself, while you're putting on clothes, while you're walking, while you're eating, while you're defecating, while you're lying down, which includes while you're working. You see? In these monasteries, people work round the clock. Uncle Liam gives very little time for people to sit and meditate. He says, this is what you do. When he went there to see him this time, he was passing on tiles. He himself was passing on tiles to monks who were preparing the cheti, who were preparing the stupa. And that's your meditation. You have to be mindful there. You are hanging on. If you are not mindful, it falls down. And you have to do work with full devotion, with dedication. In extremely hot weather, everything is unpleasant, still you are doing it. So you can see the state of the mind. So those are the real practices which we should really incorporate. Then we'll be following the Sampajanna Pabbam of Buddha properly. He tells us so clearly, in every activity you should be Sampajanakari hoti. You should have a comprehensive awareness of that you are, what work you are doing, you should be aware of that work. ये नहीं कि आप चल रहे हैं और सोच रहे हैं कुछ और, खा रहे हैं और सोच रहे हैं कौन सी किसको वोट देना है. Complete focus on that. Then clarity of purpose. Then using that as an object of meditation. These are the aspects of sampajanya. Keeping your meditation intact with the work at hand, which has to be developed by innovation, by innovating. Whatever work I do, I should be able to find out how do I use that work for meditation in that sense of developing mindfulness, developing the understanding of anicca, developing the understanding of dukkha, developing the understanding of anatta. So every activity can be done in that manner.
But sir, personally I feel that I am now a little more confused about things like first truth of dukh hai that I need to understand. I feel I only do a partial job, half of it. I do not know how to, I know this is unpleasant and I know why it is unpleasant because whatever anger hai isme, but I do not know how to handle it, take it further, and
let me explain it.
It's incomplete to my mind.
Because that's a very crucial aspect of wise view, of really developing wise view. Samma ditthi will be developed only when we take it to the culmination. Now, what does it mean, culmination? That I have, suppose a state of the mind is arising and you observe it and passes away. That's simple, it's gone. But if some state of the mind arises and it sticks and holds on and on and on and on, then you should sit under it and make a resolve that this is the great opportunity, first noble truth is arising, let me sit and understand it. Of course, it may not be possible all the time if you are in midst of something, but whenever you get time, and even if this happens during the day 10 times and you didn't get time at that time, sit in the evening and do that. Rather than sitting and observing the breath or something, sit and do that. Recall that event and see, oh, this is what, try to meditate, the thought will again come. Isn't it? If something is bothering you too much, if you sit and meditate, it will again come. Whenever time you do. And the moment you come, then hold on to it and sit, okay, let me sit. What does it do? What does it do to me? Like Buddha says, suffering should be understood. Now, how the hell should I understand? Okay, sit under it, just sit. And see what's going on. Thoughts of anger arising, fear arising, insecurities arising, whatever is arising, just be aware. Okay, this is what is happening, this is what is happening, body, this is happening, there is fear, heartbeat is rising, horripilation is happening, or goosebumps are happening, there is greed arising, whatever. Just be aware. Just be aware. Don't do anything. Just be aware and hold on till mind settles down. That's it. May seem a tall order. It's not.
So isn't it recreative? I mean, this is like, no, I think it's okay.
No, for recording. For recording purposes, it will be helpful. Yeah.
Isn't this recreating?
Yeah, in a way it is.
One is just sitting and letting things come and observing it.
Yeah.
The other, what you said is, if you didn't have time to see that particular thing, then sit again and recreate it, bring it back.
That's
Isn't
right.
it recreating?
Yeah, that's true. That's
so
true.
that can be done.
Yeah. Because we want to investigate. We didn't have time at that moment.
Okay.
In fact, you may not have to really put an effort to recreate, because if something is happening again and again, and you want to sit and meditate, the thought will automatically come. But you can even recreate, there's no harm, because something is lurking in the stream of consciousness. Right. This is what is meant by latent tendencies. So those latent tendencies have to get an opportunity to come up. At that time in the morning, during the day, there must have been some triggers which focus the latent tendencies to come to surface. So I discovered, I have this latent tendency of insecurity or of fear of this, fear of that. Now, with passage of time from morning till night, maybe I get busy in other doing things of the world and have a nice time and forget it. But I would suggest it's good to remember it and again find out what the hell is going on, because that will arise some other time. So rather than it arising at a time and I can't handle it, let it arise at a time. It's like doing practice for army, They do practice, they do war games when there is no war, so that they become strong to handle it then.
This was one of my most important questions, because ongoingly when I was doing Vipassana, was that whenever these sensations or insecurities or any painful memory comes in, my whole point was to go back to my breath and just stay with my breath. Whereas not, giving too much of weightage to whatever's memories or something or the other. Going back to the breath. I was doing that.
Generally what is done, you see, it depends on what is the intensity. There are, in the Satipatthana we are taught Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, Dhammanupassana. Kayanupassana includes breath observation. Vedananupassana means feeling observation, which could be of the body or other feelings which arise, including mental feeling. So if mind is getting upset, then the mental feelings should be observed, they should be known. Oh, mind is getting upset, I don't like it. Isn't it? So it should be known. Then there is Chittanupassana, state of the mind, which arises. Now if one has practiced enough and an unpleasant state arises and you observe, it just passes off. Because it's a fleeting thing, then it doesn't matter then. But if something is sticking on, like that, it becomes like a hindrance. We have in Dhammanupassana, first section is Nivarana Pabbam. You remember? Which are 5 hindrances, Kama Chanda, Vyapada and so on. So if there is some hindrance which is so strongly appearing again and again and again, so in that the Buddha says, when that happens, when that Nivarana arises or when that hindrance arises, then you should investigate what is the reason that it is arose again. It went away and then it arose again, went away, arose again. So you should investigate. It is like saying that you should understand the first noble truth. I would put it just like that. When any hindrance is a suffering, isn't it? No. It is understood means you have really penetrated into it. Yeah, and let go of it. Then the suffering is arising and I am observing it, seeing its manifestations in body, seeing its manifestations in mind. Mind is getting upset, mind is getting angry or fearful or afraid, I will die, what will happen to my children, what will happen to this, what will happen to my wealth, what will happen, and all kinds of thoughts are rising. You're just letting them be, just be aware. Try to as much as possible detach, be an observer. Sometimes mind will wander, get caught, sometimes that's okay. We are just practicing.
मुझे यही लगता था
get
कि
caught.
Thoughts चल रही तो आप कहानी में ही डूबते चले जाओगे, गहरे चलते
But if you develop that habit, अगर आप कोशिश करेंगे और आदत डेवलप करेंगे ऑब्जर्वेशन के एटीट्यूड की, सती बनाना, सती का मतलब यही है ना, being the observer. So बीच में भटक गए, but still मन भटक गया, and then you observe, anger is arising, fear is arising, and just keep on observing and see what is happening in the body. So body helps in that. If the mind goes to the thoughts again and again, you switch to the body for some time. then it'll come back, then you can observe the mind also. So if you do like that in a wise manner, switch between body and mind whenever the whatever becomes dominant, and when it becomes difficult to observe non-reactively and mind does not get carried away. So if we can hold on with that process for a long time, how long? Till the mind quietens down and naturally they will spring in from within, the cause will become evident to you. Now that needs faith. It's a leap of faith. You have to wait and you have to have that confidence that it will happen. Buddha says, I have to understand, and what the hell I am trying to understand. He should tell us. Why not? The mind should do this. Yeah, that's okay. That also is understandable. Mind sweeps us away. We come back again. So what?
What about the let go part?
That will come automatically. Let go means basically what does it mean? Let accept. The moment you are accepting, oh my mind is angry, you are accepting, you are letting go of that anger. You are not holding on to it.
I have accepted the cause, right? I know
Not
the
the-
cause was my aversion or something.
That should emerge from deep within.
Right, sir.
Eventually it will come to the
To the
sense of self, somewhere, some
right,
aspect
exactly.
of sense of self.
Right, sir.
I have a very high opinion of
But
myself.
sir,
I have this.
what happened is that once, okay, you come to know that it is finally come down to it, comes down to yourself only in the end. It comes down to you only, and you accept it, and you are willing to let go, but again the same thing.
No, it's not. It's not that it will, once you do it, it ends. It's not like that. No? It won't happen.
Okay.
When there is a latent tendency, it means it has been carried over in the stream of consciousness for who knows
So
how
वो
long.
थोड़ा सा demotivating हो जाता है.
That's the effort. वीर्य जो है ना, इसी को कहते हैं ना, वीर्य इसी में बात involved होता है. That we stick and hold on to it, and hold on to it till the real cause becomes evident. It could be some kind of wanting, Krishna, but if we can hold on to that and if we can let go of that, there will be cessation. So we should try that we understand the suffering to the extent that we experience cessation of it.
So cessation माने जब thought एकदम blank हो
नहीं,
जाए।
जब वो suffering हमको बेचैन ना करे.
But वो that every
Understanding
time you
आगे-
think of the incident, that will still create some level of restlessness.
Much lesser than earlier.
हाँ, much less,
yeah.
but some.
Such that you don't have to think it again and again. You're trying to do once what happened, say during the day, some event arose and it kept on bothering you again and again and again. At that time you were not able to find opportunity to investigate. Then in the evening you sit for meditation, that thought will come again. And now you investigate deeply. Investigate deeply to the extent that you really find out, or it's not really you find out, the nature throws open. It's like just as they say, in the sea, if there's a dead body, it can never stand there. It will always throw it out. So this defilements are like dead bodies in a sea of pure consciousness. So our chitta is basically pure. But we don't allow that purity to manifest because the defilements are so strong that we can't wait for the purity to manifest. So we have to just wait for that purity to manifest and throw out the dirt. So if you just can wait, that's what is meant by let go, let be, acceptance, whatever word you want to use. Okay?
Sir, let go doesn't mean relax. I mean to say you relax for some time and
The
it.
word relax is a dangerous word, it can be mean differently.
So
If you say, if the mind is upset and you should relax, that's fine. But somebody will say, छोड़ो यार होता रहेगा जाने दो."
some hindrances has appeared and I understand that yes, it is arising very strong, that feeling is very strong. Something has happened just before I have sat for concentration and 1 hour before or 2 hours before, some topic has arisen and it is caught during the concentration and that becomes hindrance time and again. That feeling is so strong that I am unable to come out of that this thing.
See, the trigger, we have to distinguish between trigger and latent tendency. If we say this was the trigger, then we have missed the opportunity. Trigger can be any damn thing in the world. What can you do? There will be always triggers. But from those triggers, what latent tendency of mine got pushed up to the surface? That's what I have to do. Which latent tendency of mine get pushed up to surface, and I created so much of suffering. So that is the key thing. So this is what is meant by really investigation also. Investigate into the nature of experience. This is the word now, और कोई मुझे word नहीं मालूम.
नहीं, but
I investigate, but actually it means let the nature reveal the truth. That will be a better way of putting it.
But my thing is, how long does it take for it to actually have a impact on me? Like, I'll narrate an incident. It's a little shameful one. I was wanting not to. But I had a fight with my mother, and my speech was not right at any level. Neither the words nor the tone, nothing was right in it. Not the choice of words, nothing. And I did it out of anger. Now I know because I was angry, I did it. I also realized why I did it when I sat down and I saw. But it was not one standalone incident, because after I realized it was out of anger that I did it, next time when a similar topic came up, I again lost my temper. So I was wondering, well, why did I get affected by it again? I know it was my issue.
And the understanding was superficial. The understanding it is my anger is superficial. Why is that anger? What is the tendency which is promoting the me? And there must be something deep inside it.
So how do I get
you have
deep?
to sit with it. You have to sit with it till the cessation is experienced. It doesn't mean complete cessation, but a substantial reduction in the. There's an insight developed. Oh, this is the problem. The insight could be that I am expecting my mother to behave in a particular way. And I am not ready to change my behavior, but I want my mother to change her behavior. And she is 75 years old and I am not willing to change, and she should change. And I want the world to behave in a particular manner, or I want my son to behave in a particular manner. And why do I want? Because the words spoken I don't like. Why do I don't like the words spoken? Because I have a high esteem of self-esteem, or I have a high image of myself. Why have a high image of myself? So you penetrate into it, and eventually you'll find there's a fundamental ignorance about the nature of I, about my pride, about the sense of self, about the latent tendencies of various kinds. It's not just, I'm just pointing out one. Actually there will be a whole kind of bunch of things which are added up, because as we have discussed, it's not one cause and one effect. There are multiple causes, multiple effects. Something becomes most prominent, but if you have really wish to investigate deeply, then all those things will become evident. But you have to give sufficient time. So especially in interpersonal relationship, as I have mentioned repeatedly, it is 90% of the time it is perception. It's perception causing problem. I have a certain perception of a behavior, how a person should behave. You have a certain other perception of behavior, and we happen to live together, and therefore we are always in conflict with each other because our perceptions are different. So we need to see that part also, because that is an insight. You see, that is an insight which we develop. Let me share my own experience of this. My wife has a tendency, of course, when she'll hear, she'll get angry. That's okay. That's okay. Has a tendency to speak in a strong voice. Okay. And for years I kept on saying, please speak softly, please speak softly. And I always felt, why is she speaking harshly like that? And attributed it to various reasons, X, Y, Z, family reasons, this reason, anger, aversion, this, that, all kind of things. And then slowly when I started investigating deeply, and she used to sell, it's not just that. I am teaching those children in the school who are rowdies, they create hell. And if I talk like you, they will not even listen to me. I have to shout. But it somehow didn't register in my mind. It took years for me to register that this was a genuine thing. It was a perceptual issue.
No, I mean like her way of speaking to you was coming to you.
Yeah, it was a carryover from what she is doing in the school. Because the voice becomes strong, the tone becomes strong.
That was from her place. But when you were listening to her and getting disturbed, where were you operating from?
I had that expectation that people should talk, the wife should talk softly. I had that expectation, you see. So both the things put together, that's why I said perceptual differences are there. No? The talking softly is not necessarily a wise talk. It can be a deceptive talk also.
Yes.
But we are told, Harusai Vacha Veramani, we generally think in this. Harsh speech should not be done. We should speak truthfully. We should not do slandering. We should not. No, harsh speech has a different connotation for different people, isn't it? For me, that was harsh speech. For her, it was normal speech. And the moment I began to understand that, the suffering finished virtually. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to observe my breath for weeks or observe my body for any time. Nothing at all. Perceptual change. Oh yeah, that's true. Now if I get angry, I realize that there is my problem because my sense of hearing is very strong. So if somebody just whispers, I hear. But if I speak in the same tone, they say we can't hear. So there's a problem with me, not with them. So the whole perception changes, isn't it? So the suffering need not necessarily come from things which are apparent. They can be subtle things like perception, especially interpersonal relations, especially when you have generational difference. There's a huge generational difference I can see between our family. I'm now in a higher generation, senior generation. We have a son, we have a granddaughter. There's a huge difference in that. And when my mother was there, she had a different perception altogether. So when we are all four generations living, interacting together, you could see the perceptual differences, and if we are not wise, we can make a hell out of that. So the expectation that people should behave in a particular way arises out of perceptual difference. And that clarity will emerge when the mind is ready to accept the suffering arising from that. We understand there is suffering, and sometimes it seems so obvious, Obviously she is shouting, then why? Obviously this is so obvious. She is shouting and I am not feeling good about it. Why should she shout? Why can't she talk softly? So it seems so obvious that if you don't investigate, you will never be able to figure out. Isn't it? It's quite obvious, of course. I am talking softly and you are shouting at me unnecessarily. So these are such simple but so subtle issues that we overlook them because we are not able to come to the acceptance of it and investigation of the causes. So this kind of investigation is very helpful, and that's how insight is developed. See, the insight comes from there. It can come from if you are attending any of the Monday, Sunday classes, those theories are talking of things which are unimaginable, from which they get insight. So we should not think that any work can be an impediment in my happiness. That's where the question started from. Okay?
Whether it is or friends or any relations, suppose mental restraint. If I am practicing mental restraint, is it okay or not?
Yeah, of course, but it's not others. You can't expect others to practice.
I'm talking about for only myself, I am restraining my wife. No, I am restraining on mental.
What do you mean restraining what?
Restraining, I'm to say reactions.
Speech.
Reactions, speech,
Restraining on the mind.
speech reaction.
Actions, yeah.
Suppose my wife or she says anything, she is criticizing my. No, she has stopped criticizing my this meditation because earlier I was coming here, so she was criticizing. No, she is I think realizing that I am rather improving. And now she is not criticizing now, but whenever still some criticism happens to be, I mean to say, unwelcome, I don't like. So on mental level I am restraining. I am not giving reply to that, this thing. Is it?
See, I don't know what you mean by restraining. It can be a suppression also.
Yes, I am suppressing, exactly.
That's not correct. That will eventually someday erupt.
Of course, I am controlling, rather controlling, suppressing.
There should be insight. That's why I am saying there should be insight into it. There should be understanding of it.
But how can I do it at that point of time? See, if
yes, please go ahead.
at that time when she speaks anything, I mean to say, which is unpleasant thing, and if I am reacting at that time.
You don't have to react. No? You say you are restraining, isn't it?
Restraining, yes.
Yeah, so that's very good. So use that. Don't stop at restraining. Use that opportunity to investigate. Why am I feeling bad when somebody is criticizing? Whosoever, wife or son or husband, father, whatever. Why am I feeling bad about criticism? So thus advice is very clear. If the criticism is valid, say thank you. If it is invalid, inform the person, sorry, it's not correct.
Say for example, giving an example that I have to wear, what to say, slipper, and I am not wearing it, and I am leaving it as in a one corner and walking barefooted. So she will criticize that, see, your grandpa is not wearing this thing, leaving one side. So I do not react, even I want to say controlling, suppressing, whatever I would say. I am not reacting to anything.
If you can laugh it off, it's very good. Because restraining can be a delicate thing. It can be that you are actually getting angry and then not expressing anger and not even aware of it. So one should be aware of it. The awareness is a very important part. Awareness of the mind, rather than awareness of the mental state, rather than trying to kind of suppress it by force of will.
I'm laughing internally, mentally I'm laughing.
Yeah, that's fine then. If there is no reaction, pretty fine. So the restraint sense, that's why I said the word जो है ना वो थोड़ा उसे clarity नहीं होती कि क्या कर रहे हैं. अगर कोई कुछ कह रहा है तो ठीक है, that's all right. That's okay. These are such small things that you can easily ignore them, isn't it? Yeah, but if they are somewhere, if our mindfulness is sharp, we can figure out, is this somewhere hurting me? Sharpness, it depends on sharpness of mindfulness. We may ignore some things in ignorance or in knowledge. अब ये शब्द कुछ गड़बड़ हो गया ना? You can be aware of it actually. You should not be, you should be aware and not mind it. And see, that's okay. Different people have different ways of living, different ways of understanding, that's okay. And to the extent it is possible for harmony's sake to follow, follow. So they are very simple things, I used to be very careless about my dress, and now it will be an eternal problem in the family. So she says, you wear this, okay, I'll wear it. Why make a big fuss out of it? Yeah. I used to in the beginning, when I was very busy with my work, I had no time to think about all that. But if she says you wear it, then if I say no, why? Then you argue and discuss, what the hell is this? Isn't it? Why should you? Wear it and be done with it. So we need to develop, these are the ways of reducing down self. These are all self, There can be an issue of, it may sound very strange, There may be a self issue of some simplicity. I want to be simple. I want to dress in a simple manner. I don't want to look smart. I don't want to look good. Oh, spiritual people should dress with simplicity. They should wear kurta pajama, not pant. Now you've made a perception of that kind, and then you want to hold on to it. It is self-view, coming again and again and again. Clothing is meant for protection. The rest of it is meant for others, and especially your family. If they feel happy, okay, be happy. Why does it matter what clothing I wear? Because it doesn't affect me. Of course, food, if you tell me you eat this and it hurts me, then I will not do it. So we have to have discretion, we have to have wisdom in deciding what is wrong, what is right. That's what is meant. So that's also an aspect of mundane right view. Being able to see what is right, what is wrong, and not becoming sticky about things which have no significance in our journey in the spiritual path, or which have no significance in which don't hurt anybody, which don't cause any suffering to me, which don't cause any suffering to others. Why make an issue out of it? Isn't it? Just because of perception, preferences. So that's how we overcome preferences. Okay.
Sir.
So
can I ask? So you talked about harsh speech at your home, and you also narrated how you were able to rationalize it.
Understand it.
Understand it.
Because
let me complete the question. You were able to figure out a reason, right? Suppose in some situation you were not able to find out such a reason. How would you have handled it? In this specific case of harsh speech, you were not able to find out a reason why the other person is repeatedly using harsh speech.
Yeah, then I see it as a karma. I mean, before finding out the reason, I used to see it as my karma. That's it. Obviously it is. There's no doubt on that. Whatever circumstances I face in my life, they are a result of my karma. Now, what I make out of those circumstances, whether I cause suffering out of those circumstances or I use them to cause understanding and insight, is my present karma. So if I understand properly, I can use those unpleasant situations to develop insight. If I am not wise, I can use those circumstances to add to my suffering and add to them more and more and more. So that is the mundane right view, understanding the law of karma. Yeah, that's what I said, no? Mundane right view, understanding the law of karma, which encourages wholesome actions.
You said it is with affluence.
Yeah, with affluent meaning with self-view, with the asava, with the canker, with the taint. It's not pure in the sense that self-view is there. Because karma, when I say my karma, obviously the meaning is it is something related to me. I am taking it personally. Isn't it? Of course, as I understand, I can take it impersonally also, the situations which have arisen.
Sir, if three characteristics of existence are past, present and future.
Which one? Yeah. Seeing the three characteristics of existence. Understanding impermanence, understanding unsatisfactoriness, understanding impersonality. Yeah. Okay. Let's now go to the next wise resolve, samma sankappa. What does it mean? Anybody remembers? What does samma sankappa mean? The classical definition is nekhamma sankappo, avyapada sankappa, avahimsa sankappa. Nekhamma means nishkramana. Nishkramana means घर छोड़ना जैसे कहा जाता है, but basically renunciation. So renunciation, so we translate it in better words other than renunciation will be resolve to give up acquisitiveness. एकत्र करने की टेंडेंसी जो है वो छोड़ देना, चीज़ें जोड़ने की जो आदत है उसको कम करना, उसको त्याग कर देना. That is what is meant by nishkraman. That is, I mean, it leads to nishkraman. Then avyapada sankappa means I will not having ill will. The resolving that I will not have ill will towards others, and avihimsa. अहिंसा तो हम समझते ही हैं, अहिंसा का संकल्प, निष्क्रमण का संकल्प, और अव्यापाद तो हिंदी में नहीं होता शब्द, उस सेंस में द्वेष, निर्द्वेषता का संकल्प. तो ये तीन बातें कही जाती हैं. तो what are their expositions? How do we really understand it? How do we develop them? Resolve to give up acquisitiveness means you have to reflect. Does more wealth give more happiness? Then reflect the difference between needs and wants. And what are the social and ecological consequences of acquisitiveness in the society? Greed of few people causes so much suffering to the whole of the humanity. So when you say, does more wealth mean more happiness? I hope the answer should be clear to us. It doesn't really, isn't it? What is the difference between needs and wants? Yes. कितनी आवश्यकताएं हैं और कितनी इच्छाएं हैं हिंदी में कहा जाए. तो आवश्यकताओं में और जो हम ये भिक्षुओं के संपर्क में आते हैं, so you can see that they live on the basis of needs. Just 4 prerequisites, that's all. Limited set of clothes, 1 bowl, some roof over the head to prevent from sun and rain, and medicines when they are ill. Very basic medicines when they are ill. So when you go and visit monasteries and see how people are living, that's where we realize what the needs are. And when we see what we are living, we realize what the wants are, and we can try to see the difference between them. Really. So the bhikkhus coming here and our interacting with them, and especially when we go to their monasteries and see how they live, it's a great example of how we can live with the barest minimum requirements. See? So the issue from householder's perspective is not that wealth is bad. I mean, it should not be seen in that sense also, because some people go to that other extreme. Wealth is bad and therefore we should, all those people who are wealthy are bad people. No, that's again an ideology, not the truth. See? It doesn't matter whether you're worrying about vegetables or whether you're worrying about getting a chartered aeroplane. Same thing. It doesn't make much difference. You're worrying. You want this particular vegetable, and if somebody wants this particular model of car, it's okay. That wanting is wanting, suffering is same. And there's a famous statement: wealth is like sea water. The more we drink, the thirstier we become. So you can use these quotes from Schopenhauer, a great German philosopher. Then social and ecological consequences. This is something which we have been used to discuss a lot in IIT among the students. Are you able to understand the social consequences of acquisitiveness, or you can say greed if you want to put it? Can you speak about it?
Social consequence, one thing that comes to my mind is diamond mining. The kind of life the miners are having to live just for an ornament, so that it can create a pretty ornament for somebody who can afford it. So even ecologically it is quite disastrous, the mining. And That is one of, it is an acquisition. Having a diamond is an acquisition, form of acquisition. And it seems quite frivolous to me. Just for a stone, you're harming the environment and you're harming people so much.
I'll make a more generic statement really. We these days talk about climate change, global warming. I think हम सबको अनुभव पे आता ही है कि पिछले 10 सालों में गर्मी काफ़ी बढ़ रही है, progressively बढ़ रही है. What is the reason for it? Anybody? Okay, that's not a major reason really. one of the reasons. The main reason is, what is the main reason? The main reason is carbon dioxide level is high. Even the other pollutions don't matter. In fact, ozone pollution we have reduced now. And that's very interesting example of success. You see, there about 40 years ago was discovered this issue of ozone and layer depleting in the stratosphere, and the effect of it was skin cancer in the areas where the solar radiation was very high. It was happening in Australia and parts of New Zealand and others. And since it was affecting the so-called affluent section of the society, the immediate actions were taken, research was done and was associated with chlorofluorocarbons, and all kind of changes were done, and now the success stories of climate change, that chlorofluorocarbons are banned internationally over the 50 years period, and now they're all banned, and ozone depletion, that hole has come down and the incidences of cancer are reducing. So that has actually happened. But carbon dioxide is a much more difficult game. Why? Because you do anything, you burn any fuel, green, white, yellow, whatever you burn, it will get converted into carbon dioxide. You can't prevent it. And as the carbon dioxide content increases, it acts like a greenhouse, and eventually the temperature is rising. And you reach a state where even if we do corrective actions, it will take 100 years for the correction to change and bring about a change. So why is the carbon dioxide content rising? Because there is more industrial activity, more cars, more power plants. We want more energy, we want more lighting, we want more air conditioning and all that. All of us want it, isn't it? So eventually the population is certainly one thing. Population and the lifestyle, both of them. Population and the lifestyle. If we retain the lifestyle of a monk in the Pumjaung Gaon, there is no problem. They don't use electricity at all. They live in a forest, absolute forest, wooden cabins, finished. And they seem to be more happy than us, I think, most of us. So the lifestyle is affecting us very drastically. I'm not saying we can do it, because as householders we have certain limitations. We can't really do that way. But certainly we have reached, or virtually reached a point of no return. And I mean, to think that suddenly people will stop industrial activity, obviously it's not going to happen. So we're going to have real trouble. And the root of it is more things we want, more goods we want, more services we want. So that's what is happening. So the more why we want, because the need for acquisitiveness, we are not, contentment is not there. You know, there is, you just imagine if all the people of the world will become contented, what will happen to the industry? GDP will just go to zero. Things can last. This phone can easily last 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. Why do you have to change it every 2 years? There is no reason. Population explosion also, that is true. That is true. Population increase is very dominant influence on the industrial activity. But industrial activity by itself is rooted in acquisitiveness, in the greed. So we are discussing that issue, that to social and ecological consequences of acquisitiveness. So that's what I am just trying to point out.
If everyone is contented, there will be no development.
Yeah, but we already have enough development now. I think let's be contented now.
Till we don't get somewhere, till we don't, I mean, in the last 5 years only we've seen so much of development. I mean, you never know where we can reach.
Yeah, that's true. Now we have to really understand, that's very true. For countries like India, we have still a lot of things to do, there's no doubt about it. There's so much poverty still, there's so much of road, sanitation, water supply, there's so much. It doesn't really apply to the hinterland of India, but it does apply to Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore. I think we don't need too much things now. So, but of course, because population explosion is there and people from outside are coming, it's a vicious circle, People from villages come here and all that. But what we are trying to go to is not to solve the problem, to understand that acquisitiveness is at the root of that. At the root of all that is the acquisitiveness, wanting to have more and more things, much more than what we need. And that's where these issues come. So wise resolve will mean giving up that tendency. Being content with 7 days a week, okay, 7 sets of clothes. Okay, 14 sets of clothes, not more than that. Can we be? Let's see that. Or our own requirements, how much we want. Let's sit down on a piece of paper and write down how much clothing, how much shoes, how much other utilities we want in our home. Prepare a list, no restriction. And see, this is a common debate which I have with many ladies in the family. I'm not singling out ladies, but there is a clear issue of acquisitiveness there in terms of clothes, in terms of other requirements. It's not necessary. You don't even use up. You don't even know that you have so many sarees. You don't even know that you have so many dresses there. And sheer acquisitiveness. So we have to see that. So it's a very helpful thing in the spiritual path to do such small exercises. Okay, how many clothes I need? How many shoes I need? How many umbrellas I need? And so on. Small items, very simple. Don't think it is a waste of time. It's very useful time. Because you are following the wise resolve. You are actually implementing it. Okay?
So, personally, I've never carried this concern of acquisitiveness, क्योंकि मुझे लगता है कि from a position of scarcity, it's okay.
Yeah.
So what do I need to be careful about? I've never.
I as a person, not about others.
No, I'm talking about.
Yeah, if I can investigate whether I have more than enough, whether I have superfluous items with me, whether I have more dresses than I need, whether I have more clothes, things than I need, whatever it could be. I could investigate and see so that I don't buy more and more. I don't add to the shopping list and force more additional production. That's it.
No.
Maybe I don't have. That's it.
Yeah. So I'm saying if I don't have,
Fine.
and
that's okay.
Then it's okay to have acquisitiveness.
Yeah. If I have not acquisitiveness, that's not okay. It's good to fulfill all our needs. Certainly. If I have only one dress, there was a time it used to be a big problem. I was too kind of, what word should I use? Restrictive of that, and there used to be a big problem in a family because the clothes will not be available when I have to wear because they have not been washed and I don't have enough clothes to wear. Yeah, limited set of clothes, and so I had to give in. Okay, I should have at least 7 clothes, so that at least 1 week can pass, and then there will be no fight. See, because our lifestyles are different. Na? If I have to go to office every morning at 8 o'clock, my wife has to go to school every morning at 7 o'clock, how the hell do we take care of them? But obviously I don't need 100, I don't need 50, I don't need 40. So we have to strike a balance. See? So acquisitiveness means wanting. It is basically wanting more and more than what I need. So if I put down, I'm not saying you need X or Y. Somebody may need 10, somebody may need 15, that's okay. But I doubt if anybody would need 100 pairs of shoes. I don't think so. So you can put a limit, whatever you like. I never prescribed anybody to follow anything. But please apply the mind and put a limit on your, whatever limit you like. but put a limit, because that's where acquisitiveness comes up. Anything, everything, anything.
Within that limit, you're saying it's fine.
I'm not saying.
And the limit is
acquisitiveness
reasonable.
can never be fine.
It can never be fine.
Acquisitiveness means the tendency to acquire more and more.
No, I'm saying till the limit. I'm below the limit.
Okay, it's then you're fulfilling your needs, then it's not acquisitiveness.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I said distinction between needs and wants. So whatever is our need should be fulfilled. We are householders. And if we don't have more than what we need, how will you make offering to the monks? So we should have. Even Kabir says that I should have enough to eat and to offer to the mendicant who comes and wants something. So it's all right, it's pretty fine. But there has to be some limit drawn somewhere, isn't it? If I have more money, I should see how to use it. Isn't it? How should I use it gainfully? In the service of Dhamma, in service of people who are suffering, in service of other activities. I'm not saying don't have money for security reasons in the modern world of illnesses and kind of expenditure. Okay, have it, but keep a limit somewhere. So this is one aspect of wise resolve. We usually think, malum hai. So we should spend some time on all simple things. Then resolve to give up ill will, abhyapada sankappa. This, of course, we discuss so many times in various ways. So I just put a quotation from Buddha. Harboring resentment is like drinking poison to kill somebody else. And like wo galat ho gaya anyway. So there's nothing to be gained by harboring resentment against others. We need to really understand it. And understand it to the level of insight. And that resentment will arise if somebody has harmed me, done injustice to me, cheated me, deceived me. It's natural, resentment will arise. You don't like it. But you understand it and then let go of that. Because if we harbor it and keep it stored within us, we suffer. It may not do any good to the others.
So one question. So about ill will and goodwill, is there anything in between? Like sometimes we don't have an ill will for any person, for some person, and we don't even have a goodwill for the same person.
Yeah.
What
there
is
can
that?
be a neutral feeling, towards others, but actually there should be goodwill towards all.
So that's wrong, sir. Is it?
It's not a question of being right or wrong. It's a question of understanding. The more our understanding develops, the more we are able to see that people are suffering because of ignorance, we transform the ill will into goodwill, into compassion, into loving kindness. Those kind of transformations will happen. So this is the avyapada sankappa, and then resolve to give up harming others, avahimsa sankappa. And there's that famous verse in Dhampada. First one kills oneself, only thereafter he can kill others. You can hurt, it actually says hanti, but it actually means hurts. First one hurts oneself, only thereafter he can hurt anybody else. And the analogy is given, it's like holding burning charcoal in hand so that you can throw it at the others. So first I will burn, other will burn or not is not necessary, he may be smart. So you can see the interrelationship with the wise view. The wise view is basically changing our view of the world. So it reduces moha, the delusion about the world, reality of the world. And that is the root cause of akushala dhamma. All the unwholesome activities emerge from delusion, wrong view, not understanding suffering properly, associating with other people, not understanding law of karma, not understanding dependent origination. So all those things put together are a manifestation of ignorance, avidya basically. And that is the root of all unwholesome activities. And what role do these play? Wise resolve will reduce our akushala dhamma. Resolve the, say if you have nekhamma sankappa, it reduces lobha, greed is reduced. that is the resolve to reduce acquisitiveness. Then avyapada and abhimsa, they reduce the dosha, the unwholesome tendency of aversion. So you can see the operation of these things in terms of the freedom, because you remember the whole, what is the crux of freedom is reduction of moha, roga and dosha. Three basic poisons as they are called, or three root defilements. Three root defilements are lobha, dosha and moha, or greed, hatred and delusion. Okay, these are the three root defilements, and the reduction of them is the main objective, which will lead to insight and freedom from suffering.
Akushal dhamma are latent tendencies? Or
Pardon?
Akushal dhamma are latent tendencies?
Akushala dhamma means unwholesome actions, basically.
Akushala
Unwholesome
dhamma.
mental states. Dhamma is actually, one of the words is for mental states. So again, just as in the wise view, we had mundane and supramundane, or lokottara and lokiya. Here also we have mundane and supramundane right view. So again, mundane right resolve will be gaining merits. So I become less greedy and make offerings to the monks, to the community, do dhamma service, but there is a feeling, इससे मेरे पुण्य बढ़ रहे हैं, मेरी पारमी बढ़ रही है, मेरा लाभ होगा. It's good, it's wholesome, but it is not supramundane. It's not going to be of the highest possible kind. So highest possible kind is when there is no attachment in doing all these activities. So we again use the same word, taintless, without attachment. So then it becomes a factor of Eightfold Noble Path. Okay. And how does it arise? How does this happen? That we have that insight into the suffering. We see that nothing in this world is really ultimately abiding satisfaction does not come from it, isn't it? It's not that it's not giving satisfaction, but doesn't give abiding satisfaction for long periods of time. So that inclines mind towards dispassion and inclines mind towards samma, sankappa automatically. So you begin to abandon the craving, both for objects and also for people. Because cravings of both the kinds exist there, which bind us to so many things. And then when we apply the truth in that manner, we see ourselves, we see other beings, they are also suffering because of the same reason. And then slowly and slowly we feel, पहले ही लोग इतने परेशान हैं, उनको और क्यों परेशान किया जाए? So the harmless, the tendency to हिंसा की टेंडेंसी या दूसरों को परेशान करने की टेंडेंसी स्वतः ही समाप्त होने लगती है. So these अव्यापाद संकप्पो, अविहिंसा संकप्पो naturally arise from an understanding. If somebody is suffering, you don't feel like adding to his suffering anyway. If you have really deep understanding, and then you naturally are moved in that direction. So you can see the understanding of suffering, how deep it can have an influence on us.
Awareness is dangerous also. जैसे मुझे पता है आज my husband has suffered already. ये मैं लड़ाई कल करूँगी. Tomorrow I'll ensure that today I'll not trouble him.
Okay, I am sure it will not happen. Now that you have recognized it, it will not happen. That's the beauty of recognition. So naturally, the basic recognition, that's why it is said dukkha. Sometimes you wonder, ये दुखा रे सच्चा यार, क्या हमको मालूम है दुखा यार, छोड़ो ना. The fact is that if we really deeply understand it, it will move you. Not just our suffering, other suffering. If you see that, it will move you so much that resolve will automatically become wise. You will feel like इसकी कुछ help कर दो यार. अच्छा मुझे पैसे हैं तो पैसे दे दो, कुछ उसका सामान खरीदना खरीद दो, कम से कम उसको और बुला भला तो मत कहो. So you naturally feel like that. So this becomes a kind of a natural response to a wise view. So that's why it is said wise view will lead to wise resolve. It will help in. It won't be automatic. You have to reflect and understand, and then that understanding will lead to wise resolve. Okay? Then we can come to the Shila, the three
Sir,
important aspects.
Sir, before you pick up a new topic, I had a slightly subtle question. आपने suffering के बारे में बोला about sitting under it, right? And a suggestion was being made out there not to do anything, right?
No, do means sitting and observing is in some sense doing.
Yeah. But let me complete the question, maybe it will be clear. Right? And on the other hand, a repeated reference is made कि we should evaluate every experience on these three dimensions, which is dukkha, anatta, and anicca. So यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा contradiction है. एक और है कि let nature throw up the answer to you, and दूसरी ओर एक suggestion है कि इन तीन तरह से सोचो. I'm a little.
दुखा तो अनुभव हो ही रहा है ना. When you sit under it, what will happen? Suffering is you are anyway experiencing suffering. So you sit and you understand this is the first noble truth being experienced.
Right.
So dukkha is being experienced.
Okay, dukkha is being experienced.
Now I want to understand it.
But
And
the
when
other
I
two
understand,
aspects.
listen to me fully.
Okay.
When I sit and understand it, I take it to the cause and cessation, I'll understand it is really impermanent. I'll actually understand. Just my saying, or impermanent hai, badal jayega, that doesn't really gem in. When you actually experience its impermanence, you sit under it and see that it is gone. Because of understanding, it has gone. Then you are really experiencing impermanence of it, isn't it? Then you are experiencing impersonal, and you are experiencing impersonality of it. Because had it been yours, it would have never gone. It would have stuck to you. So you understand that it was phenomena which arose, passed away. It was not mine, it was not something attached to me. I grasped it and called it mine. So those three lakshanas become evident when you do this. They are not something different from it. It's just a way of actually how to do it. We generally think मुझे मालूम पड़ गई feeling है unpleasant है वो तो मालूम बदल रही है. That's not it. That's not it. No, that's not it. That's not it. That is a very superficial way. It's obviously helpful to a level. It is helpful, but it's not going to make you to penetrate into the Dhamma. You're observing painful sensation. You can say, "Oh, yeah, it is changing. Yeah, it has increased. It has reduced. Move on, move on." It is good from the point of view of training of the mind. Okay, and it reduces tension. It helps in improving samadhi, but it's not going to develop you insight in that manner. Real insight will come when you actually penetrate into it. That is pativedana, prativedana. It is only practice. You are not penetrating into it. You understand that? Even if you do very intelligently practice like that, you are actually practicing it. You are not able to penetrate into it. So the penetration will happen when you really sit under it. Suffering should be understood. That's the first noble truth. And it works. I can say it from experience. It works. Needs a little bit of patience, definitely. Because sitting under suffering, we are used to, अच्छा मन बहुत बेचैन हो रहा है, चलो सांस को देख लो, बॉडी को देख लो, कुछ कम हो जाएगी, या थॉट को इधर चेंज कर दो. All those are also mentioned by Buddha, but they are mentioned as firefighting measures. When you are about to commit a murder, it's better that you do something else. Then, otherwise, you have to understand suffering, to really penetrate into it and see the all the three characteristics will automatically be revealed. So there will not be
rather than telling ourselves that this is impermanent,
you actually
let it
manifest.
Become apparent.
Let it manifest its impermanence. Yeah. Rather than telling it is impermanent, I should see. I mean, कहा ना बार गुरु जी तो कहते हैं ना शिविर में, तुमसे कहा ना नित्य है नित्य फिर भी रुक रही हो, उससे क्या होगा? और painful sensation बदल जाएगी, we'll say it becomes impermanent. It's on a very superficial level. Deep level is when it operates at the mind level.
example.
No, I can
Really
explain it with, this is a, what should I do? Example, really, Mohammed. As we talked to Payal just now, a short while ago, she was narrating the experiences of various kinds. The event of any suffering happening, anything which is sticking on and happening, बार बार कोई भी परेशानी आ रही है, तो आप उसको शांति से बैठ जाइए. अब मैं उसका क्या एक्सपीरियंस अनुभव बताऊं, मुझे कोई याद ही नहीं आ रहा. अपना कोई अनुभव बता सकता हूं, बट आई कांट रिमेंबर. No, things don't stick, so I can't.
I think your example of your wife and your relationship with
That was very simple. That's not a big deal of.
No, you kept on questioning it,
Yeah,
and you
investigating
landed
and
up at a place
finally found out that it was a perceptional problem.
perceptional.
That's also one of, that's one of them. You can say that. That's one of them. That could be one good example. Yeah. Yeah, that could be one example, that you don't leave it unless you really understand it thoroughly. And when you understand it, it automatically vanishes then.
Can you give your example when you were struggling earlier, not now, earlier?
I somehow have wiped out all the memories seem to be wiped out.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. Let me just think. Anyway, I'll share it. There's a great risk, but I'll share it. No, I'm just joking. You see, it's a long past story. The difference of opinion in my family between my parents and my wife used to be a cause of great suffering for long decades. And I used to try my best to sort it out as far as possible in the usual manner, but couldn't really succeed. And a time came when I realized that this is more of my karma rather than which is manifesting in this form, and my attempts were that I should see it in that sense and therefore not suffer, and not expect that the people there should have somehow, why can't they live harmoniously, why can't they see each other in that particular manner. And at that time I was not so clear about this issue of perception, because it's an old story. I just remembered. So this issue of that is all basically perceptual differences. Now I can see, it's such small things like absolutely trivial things which really caused the kind of discord and discomfort in the family for so long and long and long. And so I think it didn't really get resolved for a very long time. And but in the last 11 years of my mother's life, things slowly improved, partly because I became less agitated, and partly because I could take my mother to meditation, and she also started reflecting on things. And then the kind of harmony which you would rarely see between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law was existing in our family. It was total transformation. In fact, they two became together, and I got really, my faults were known to both of them together rather than to I trying to find out with them. So that kind of bonhomie which emerged in the last, I'm talking of long back now. So the aversion to unpleasantness, aversion to harsh speech has been my, not really unpleasant, aversion to harsh speech has been a very strong weakness of mine. And it took quite some time to understand that harsh speech, of course Buddha says, because being a teacher, he always said, harsh speech to theek hi nahi hai, honi nahi chahiye. To realize that some people are saying harshly things, but they are not meaning it so seriously as I am interpreting it. It's more of a habit rather than a state of mind. And it took years for me to really realize that.
So when you penetrating,
because this kind of deep investigation was not what I used to practice earlier. No? So we used to just kind of get some insights, maybe something else is there, maybe something else is there. But the kind of sitting under that suffering and penetrating it never happened in that particular systematic manner in the past. So this exercise has been going on for last few years, and there I don't even remember if anything happened really now.
you are even able to get to the point
So
where
what I do is I recall the past events and now see it, oh, this is what was happening.
you're even, when you're doing this exercise, you're even able to go to that particular part where you have created that perception,
Yeah.
that part of your life.
Yeah. I could
So
see that.
perception
I can see
is also like,
yeah.
perception is also karma.
Yeah. Perception is in a way influenced by karma, but it's also not just past, it's also present, If I live in a society where people are very kind, then there will be one kind of perception. If I live in a society where people are very difficult, If I work in IIT, there's one kind of society I live in. My brother is a lawyer, a criminal lawyer. He works in a different environment altogether. I can't expect him, and this was another serious problem we had. I can't expect him to have the same way of speaking as I have. He is handling day and night. He is handling people who will swindle him and who are criminals, and he has to deal with them in that manner. So that kind of a wisdom took a lot of time to come. A lot of time. Now I can understand, so it doesn't bother me. I can see that easily. You see, the professions, the kind of profession you are in, the kind of activity you are in, even teaching where you are teaching, all those matter, because that's the environment in which you are enveloped all the time. And that influences your perception, that influences your speech, that influences your actions. Even though you are within the boundaries of Shila, even then you are following all these wise speech, wise action, wise livelihood. Even within that boundary there is so much of variability possible that what somebody may say is wise speech, I may say no, because I'm listening to the tone of the voice rather than the intention. It's very difficult for me to figure out the intention, not that ability to, because actually what matters is the intention. So if you're not able to figure out the intention, the conclusions can be wrong. So even apparently harsh speech can be motivated by compassion. When we read about Ajahn Chah and others, and when I met one great master this time, he's known to be absolutely straightforward and he'll speak on your face what is the state of your mind. So people are afraid of going near him because he has that psychic power to know what is going on in your mind. So he's not doing it out of any show or display. He's doing it to kind of arouse your samma samma. So if we interpret in our own traditional way, I can interpret it wrongly. So that's a very important learning for me, that I should not be hasty in judging people just on the basis of tone and speech and words and even actions. We should withhold our judgment. Quite often we have a tendency of self-righteousness and that kind of a tendency, and that has been one of the weaknesses, absolutely, what should I say, strict and very stringent with the perceptions and all that. And that creates that can be a cause of suffering.
So just you mentioned about your brother being a criminal lawyer. I just want to relate an incident. There's a series just come on Netflix, Delhi Crime. It's about
which crime?
Delhi Crime.
Delhi?
It's about this Nirbhaya case. And this police officer, there's this junior police officer who tells the senior police officer that, madam, it's not that all people are bad, but it's just that we police people, we come across the worst of the worst in society.
Yeah.
So their perception of the whole society is absolutely criminal.
Very, very right.
And the way you put it was so rightly put that, look at it from the policeman's perspective. He comes across only robbers and dacoits and murderers. So he thinks the world is painted with all dirty people. Yeah. And that's all just got me that thought.
If I were to narrate to you what view my brother has of the sannyasis and others, you'll be shocked.
I know. Sir, about babas and all that.
Tell me, भैया तुम क्या बात कर रहे हो? मैं उसका लाया हूँ, रहने दो. Matter ends. So he has a totally different view of the world. And when we were going to the Dhar jail and meeting the prisoners, I remember first time when we went there, we were afraid. First time when I went before the first course, we went to do the pre-course briefing, and we were told, हमारे perception डाल दिया गया. They are all convicted people. They are all convicted with life. They are lifers. They have been life imprisonment, and they are all either robbers or murderers. So be careful. ठीक है. Now we have to go and fill their forms. They are not educated, and now you have to fill their forms so as to get their background. अब कैसे पूछें उससे? It's such a difficult job. It was so difficult. हमको डर लग रहा था शुरू में. खैर किसी तरह से थोड़ा हमने उनको थोड़ी टॉक सुनाई, ध्यान किया, कुछ मन शांत हुआ, फिर हम गए उनके बाद. And when they started talking to us and telling their stories, the whole thing is so absolutely like innocent people. You couldn't see that they were really just two or three of us and just clustered around us. हम बैठे हैं, हाँ बेटा बोलो, लिखे जा रहे हैं. हाँ जी गुरुजी ऐसा हो गया, ऐसा कर दिया, मैंने ऐसा कर दिया, उसने ऐसा कहा, मैंने उसको ईंट फेंक दी, मर गया, अब क्या करूँगा? And you could see that how the perception of their and it's not that they were saints, because when we conducted the retreat, we knew what was in offering for us. They threatened after some time. So things aren't like that, isn't it? And when we conducted for police officers, because in this process we came to know with police people also. And what a kind of life they lead. My God. Terrible life they have. especially jail warders. And later we learned that after the most stressful jobs in the world, which is the first one? Do you know? Huh? The first most stressful job is of the ATC, air traffic controller. Oh, air traffic controller. And second is the warder in the jail. Because warders in the jail, वो पुलिस वाले तो फिर भी कुछ भले आदमियों से मिलते होंगे, उनकी तो अपॉर्चुनिटी ही नहीं है. Such a terrible thing. And they can be, prisoners can beat them up, they can entice them with money, they can ask them to give some things and undo illegal things. All kinds of things can happen. And you have to have such a strong ability of the mind to withstand all that. So when we listen to stories, अखबार में अरे पुलिस वाले ने पैसे ले लिए, हमको लगता है सारे ही पुलिस वाले ऐसे हैं. ऐसा नहीं है, ऐसा नहीं. सारे ही वार्डर चोर हैं, ऐसा नहीं है. It's terrible life, terrible life. उनको हफ्तों महीनों तक अपने बच्चों का नहीं पता कहाँ है, क्या हो रहा है, कौन जा रहे हैं. उनके हम पुलिस स्टेशन देखिए कैसे हैं, किस तरह से वो रहते हैं, किस तरह से वार्डर्स रहते हैं, कैसी उनकी ड्यूटी है, 18 घंटे खड़े हैं, सड़क पे खड़े हैं. It's terrible life. So their perception of the world and our perception of them based on what we see in newspapers. I mean, media is one of the biggest culprits in this perceptional game. Yeah.
If there is no fear of that police, whatever it is.
Yeah. So this issue of perception is absolutely crucial to freedom from suffering, because to be recognized that perception is a conditioned phenomena. It is not mine. There is nothing like right perception. Perception is like a mirage. We have been saying, Buddha says it is like a mirage. You will never know the truth. Now, all these are such important parts of wise reflection that they help us to reduce our suffering and the suffering we cause to the other people. So we need to really reflect on these things very deeply. Okay.
Once the perception changes and you rethink of the incident that happened which was troubling you earlier on, how does it feel then? Does it feel very humbled, or does it feel very stupid?
First, he'll laugh at your stupidity.
Stupid.
And the stupidity of people who are caught in those perceptions. Because then you can see that those are the people who had this perception. After 5 years, their perception is different, because now I'm seeing a time horizon of 45 years. I've been married for 45. So when I see a 45-year period, I can see what was the perception of my mother then after 10 years, after my son was born, after my son died, after another. Drastic changes in the perception. You see? So what are we calling as my perception, and I am right and you are wrong? Really? It doesn't mean that you abdicate Shila and you abdicate all wise action, wise speech, that doesn't mean that. Perception is much more subtle and much more pervasive than what we really recognize. We don't even recognize that we are in the trap of perceptual problems. And as I've been saying, if you investigate the interpersonal relationship problems, they're mostly because of that. I'm not saying other reasons. There are issues of drinking, issues of other breaking of Shila also are there. But perception in most families where Shila is more or less maintained, it is the perception differences which cause problem. And inability to see what we call a generational difference gap is essentially perception gap. I remember when I went to Korea especially, I don't know, and I think I didn't, because Korea I stayed for a long time, when my granddaughter was to be born, we stayed for a long time, 1 month or so. And I used to wonder why these girls are not wearing anything. I mean, I used to think, kya problem? I used to feel so difficult in the beginning, but then I realized everybody is like that here. That's their culture. What is my problem? If they are showing off their legs, what is my problem? I reflected upon it like that. That it's my cultural taboo, that's all, there's nothing in it. I may find something very funny, something, you are standing at the red light and the girl will take out the mirror and do some this. What is this here? So you'll find it very funny, Firstly irritating. Later I said, it's okay, it's just funny. So that's it. Now this is how the perception can, you can get angry, you can get upset, you can get this, you can get that, but it's okay. It's okay, that's the way it is. So these are just, they're not being uncivilized or indecent in any way. It lies in our eyes, the way we look at it. We are trained to see women in a particular way. They don't look at it like that. So there are some small things, which can create difficulties in our day-to-day living. Okay? I think we'll stop here. Homework is, please investigate. Simple. That is the homework for rest of the classes. I think we should develop that habit. I would very strongly suggest. I'm sure before we meet next week, hopefully we'll meet next week. Before we meet next week, you will have at least one occasion of suffering, isn't it? At least one. I mean, one which is really demands investigation. Minor things are okay. Minor things are all right. It happens. So when there is something really which grips you, firstly feel happy. I have a chance to investigate. And then do it, investigate and figure it out what's going on. I think that will be the real takeaway from this whole exercise of understanding the Buddha's teachings. You should go from pariyatti to patipatti to pativedhan, actually penetrate it.
From theory to practice?
To penetration, to penetrating into the truth. That's why he says, only when I penetrated into truth, all the four truths, then I said, I have become liberated. So obviously, we are not saying we'll have 4 into 3, 12 penetrations and we'll become liberated, but we can have a semblance of that, certainly. A semblance of that can be experienced by us. We will not have complete cessation of all suffering, but whatever arose significantly, a significant cessation of it can be experienced if we just hold on to and have the patience to sit with it. Okay? So let us do some metta chant and then do the closing homage. Do the closing homage. Arhan samma sankappa uttam bhagavan sakhato bhagavata dhammo dhamman namassami supatipanno Bhagavato Sangha Sangha trying